ensuring that this collaboration will drive significant change by 2030. Progress will be monitored and publicly reported every year. This with this understanding that collective efforts and targets will speed up the transition. Now we want to have a conversation on this, and to help us understand more about the Kenya Plastics Pact are Vimal Shah, who is the chairman of BIDCO Africa, joining us via Zoom, and also here in studio we have Josephine Wawira, who is the communications officer, sustainable inclusive business at KEPSA. Thank you very much for joining us here on Bottom Line Africa. Maybe I'll start with you, Josephine. I mean, they do say ladies first, so I'll start with you. It's supposed to transform the current linear plastic system into a circular economic for plastics. Talk to us about that. How exactly?
All right, so for a long time, not just in Kenya, across the world, we have been operating in a very linear system. And when I talk about a linear economy, is where you take, you make, and then you dispose. People often think there's an away, but the truth is there is no away. When you throw away a plastic bottle or when you throw away a sweet wrapper, it goes somewhere. It's either on the drainage system of our rivers, like look at what has happened to Nairobi River, or it is away in the ocean. And statistics show that by 2050, if we continue with this linear system, we could end up with more plastics in the ocean than actually the fish that we see. So imagine what shock our children or our children's children will face when I go to the ocean to enjoy the fish that we have enjoyed for so long and need to find plastic. So it is a menace that has faced us as a country, but not just Kenya. It's across the region. It's across the world. And so, especially with COVID-19, we have seen a rise in plastic pollution. The use of sanitizers that were not as widely used before, single-use PPEs, the mask that you use and then you just dispose of. Yeah. So we have seen an increase in the use of plastics, and it is about time, if we have learned anything, that everybody now comes to the table and not just have discussions, but have solution-based actions and initiatives that are going to actually provide a solution to this challenge now.
All right. Okay, coming to you, sir, Mr. Shah. Talk to us about the solutions that are available.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I think if you look at plastics, there are lots of solutions available. First and foremost would be for us all to work together and get a law that says it is illegal to put any plastics into the environment, which means do not dispose of it in your gardens or in your environment or throw it away, and really put it into a recycling bin and then make it happen. The options available are recycling it, because plastics can be used around 10 times again, and you can reuse and remold it into many more products. So it's a very sustainable product, provided we dispose of it properly. And then, of course, creating many more jobs across the value chain, where even in rural areas, you can create so many more jobs where people collect and really recycle it. So this can open up a whole new industry for all of us. And I think when you look at it from a perspective of what is the material and how important it is, I think it would actually help us solve a lot of our society's problems.
Talked about recycling, and this is something that has been discussed before, and we've tried implementing it before. How are we going to do it differently this time?
Very simply, I think it's not going to be by government alone. It's not going to be by private sector alone. Neither is it going to be by the people alone. Nor is it going to be done by saying, let's just ban it. I think what's going to happen is we need to have a movement of people where the private sector, the public sector, the government, people, everyone comes together and says, let's tackle this issue. Number one, sort at home, sort at source, which means in the home, if I segregate the plastics in a different way and I segregate my other waste separately, I can really sort it out. In the same way, if we did become responsible, rather than saying haki yetu, to say wajibu wangu, wajibu yetu, is my responsibility to make sure I do not put it into the environment. Number one. Number two, there is also an extended producer's responsibility that's being put up as legislation. I think we also need to have a consumer's responsibility put in there so that nobody disposes of in the environment. But when we start doing this, we can work this so well. And then the other thing is that make it all recyclable. So anything that is not recyclable, we can actually say stop using. And we as industries, we as manufacturers, or even people who are bringing in products would say, insist on it being recyclable, reusable, and revampable. So I think with that, we would achieve a whole new world where we're not throwing it in the ocean or throwing it in taka-taka bag or whatever, and we're actually making it a very good product. It would also reduce costs for everyone today. So I think across the board, the benefits of coming together into a plastics pact is, let's get everybody into it. It's not about a few people coming together. It's not about the government doing it. We all need to come together, hold hands together and say, let's solve this problem together.
All right, Jasmine, coming to you. This is an ambitious project with ambitious targets. Talk to us about those targets, because either way, when you start a project, there has to be a plan. Number one, apart from the targets, where is the first step?
All right. To reiterate on what Mr. Vimal has said, is that achieving a circular economy in the country, does not take one man, or it's not about one organization or one player in the plastics value chain. It takes the responsibility and the action of each one of us. When it comes to achieving a circular economy, it's not just about the recycling part of it. So it involves a lot of aspects, and that is from redesigning and rethinking how we can, change the model that we've been operating on. So if it's a producer that has been, producing plastics that are not recyclable, how do we come together and come up with a model that is now going to allow plastics to be recycled? And like you said, unlike other initiatives, the Kenya Plastics Pact is guided by targets that are going to be achieved by 2030. It's not very far, and so for that, if I may just mention the targets, we have 4, and one is to eliminate what is problematic and what is totally unnecessary, because we are not saying that plastic is totally bad, but we need to identify what is needed in the market, what you as a consumer need and what you don't need, and then once we eliminate that, we ensure that in target 2 we have 100% plastic which is recyclable in the country. And then the third target is to ensure that of this 100% recyclability, then actually 40% of it is being recycled. And then the last target is to ensure that we have 15% recycled content across the plastics packaging. To say this, you would then wonder, how are we going to achieve such ambitious targets? And so first of all is to make sure that everyone is brought to the table. Okay. For instance, for a long time when the conversation around plastic pollution and plastic waste management is talked about, we have sidelined one very important and key stakeholder, the informal waste sector. So we have had conversations with the government, with the NGOs, with the civil society, with the producers, but where is the informal waste sector, who plays a very key role to ensure that the plastic in the dump site ends up with the recycler? Because remember, as a country, we produce a very high amount of waste, solid waste. We are talking about 22,000 tons countrywide, yeah? And then one way to manage this is to ensure that we segregate waste at source. And so the Kenya Plastics Pact, one of the important things that we are going to do is to ensure that we sensitize Kenyans, we sensitize the consumer, you and I, that there is another option to you throwing away that bottle or that sweet wrapper on the environment, because it ends up into the landfills. Unfortunately, of that much, large amount of solid waste, 30% is about plastic and paper that can be recycled into other products. Yeah. The sad thing is only 8% of this is actually recycled in the country. So we are talking about 92% that is either incinerated or ends up in the landfill in our environment somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So being able to achieve these targets, bringing everyone to the table, and doing and having action-based solutions that the Vimal will come and say, this is what I can do as a member of the Kenya Plastics Pact, and then another member says, now I can bring this solution to the table, and then together we find a way forward. Okay. It's about time that we stopped just talking and talking and talking and start taking action.
All right, I wanted to take a break on that note, but when we come back, of course, we'll continue with that conversation. It's time to take action, but then how do we ensure that we implement this? We will continue having that discussion on the Kenya Plastic Pact, but first, that break, I leave you with Destination Africa. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with Bottom Line Africa. Of course, we continue with that conversation on the Kenya Plastics Pact. And with me is still my guest. Joining me via Zoom is Vimal Shah, who's the chairman of Bidco Africa, and also here in studio, Josephine Wawira, who's the communications officer, sustainable inclusive business at KEPSA. Coming to you, Mr. Shah, one of the targets is to ensure that there's 100% recyclable product. Coming from a company corporate perspective, how will you ensure that this happens?
That's a good question, right? I think it's all collective. We got to do it together, and it's not difficult. We've got to innovate. We've got to eliminate what's not recyclable, and obviously we've got to make sure that we're circulating it. In a circular economy, I think the issue is around, can my product be recycled? Now, if it means design changes, if it means changing all the colors to clear plastics or whatever, and then saying making it easier for recycling, I think we've got to do that. So industry's got to come together themselves, take responsibility and say, fine, let's start doing this. And there are also many best practices. I think the Kenya Plastic Pact brings together global best practices and brings them together to every one of us available straight away to say, here's a solution, this is how it was tackled in another country, and let's do it. So if we redesign, reuse, and repurpose, and then let all our consumers know that this can be recycled, this can be done in a different way, I think we just make it easier for the whole recycling industry. We'll open up a huge amount of informal jobs that today are not being unlocked. We could unlock entire potential of plastics. So I think rather than have plastics as a problem and say it's a big problem, the problem is pollution by plastics into the environment. Let's solve that problem by coming together and all of us take responsibility for it.
All right, great. Josephine, coming to you, of course. Given the numbers that you've given us, we still need to attain 92%. And looking at where we're coming from as a country, the informal sector is really big on this particular project. So when you talked about sensitizing in the first place, sensitizing is different. How are we going to ensure that this is actually implemented? Do we need more policies? Do we need to reinvent the current policies, or are they working?
So when it comes to the policy, the government has done an incredible job so far. So we are looking at different bills and policies, including the Sustainable Waste Management Policy and Bill, and what Mao mentioned earlier, the Extended Producer Responsibility Draft. The private sector has also played a very key role. We are talking of the Kenya Plastics Action Plan and now the Kenya Plastics Pact. But from our experience, we have come to realize that there's a difference between sensitization, where I come here, which is a very good platform to create awareness, and then you tell you what to do. Yeah. And then the other difference is actually going on the ground and showing you what to actually do. So because even when you're, in a class, when theory is being taught, sometimes it becomes, very complicated. But when the teacher comes and shows you that this is how you do it practically, you're like, oh, it wasn't actually that complicated. Yeah. So we have even piloted a project for it. It's called COAST. So those are acronyms for creating opportunities and alleviating poverty through sustainable trade. So this project has been piloted in Mombasa at an informal sector called TUDA. Yeah. And then what we have done is that starting from last year, we have trained youth and women on the waste to value concept. So we have, taken through them a class, process and telling them these are the dangers of letting the waste end up in the environment. However, when you sit down and look at it, waste is wealth, and in Swahili we say taka ni mali. And so we have taught them on concepts of how to create wealth from what is initially seen as waste. Because remember, when you talk of waste, it is something that you think you don't need anymore. Okay. But for some other person, this is something, for instance, is taking a plastic bottle and turning that to, to a decorative item and sold and earning money from it. And then from those classes or the training, they have created business cases that we have also helped them to seek to gain access to financial funding to scale their small businesses. Okay. So we have ended up creating opportunities for them, creating employment for youth and women, and empowering the entire community. And then we realized, even if you tell, for instance, the households, this is how you separate the waste at source. So you put the dry waste in one bin, and then you put the organic waste in one bin. Because one of the biggest challenges when it comes to recycling is, if I'm going to recycle a plastic and then it's mixed in all the food waste, it's wet and dirty, so it increases exactly, and also it increases the cost of the process, because now I have to increase to add the cost of cleaning that bottle before it goes to the next step. So separating waste at source becomes very key. But if I separate waste at my house, but then when I go to the disposal area, it's just one thing. So I will end up putting everything at the same place. So we have now ended up, saying we are going to build receptacles. So 2 in one area, for instance, and say this is dry waste and this is wet waste. So even as we sensitize the community and the households, we have also given them an infrastructure to enable them to implement that. So we end up having both social and economic impact at the ground level. And then with time, because the Kenya Plastics Pact will help bring in investment, we scale these projects. And so we are seeing solution-based initiatives and projects.
All right. And finally, coming to you, Mr. Shah, for those who are watching us right now, it is the first step. So how exactly do they need to act from now, starting now?
I think very simply, if we all make sure that we become sensitized towards plastic and say, fine, plastics is not bad. However, when I dispose of something, I'm going to make sure I segregate it into a separate pack, and I will make sure I look for a recycler. Currently, there are not enough recycling bins across the country, across the regions. But if I can do that in my household, and I really create a separate bag or something where I can put all my plastics in it, and then make sure I find some recycler somewhere, we will start off, first of all, in that manner, much better. Rather than dump it into the bag where all my waste goes. I think that's important. If we start there, I can tell you one thing, every one of us would have solved the problem. Then, of course, creating more and more opportunities for recyclers. I mean, we as Kenya Plastics Pact will make sure many more recyclers are brought in. Even there are many other industries trying to come up and say, fine, let's do it. So they need raw materials.